Thank you for attending this hearing today, for helping us understand how we may better address this serious issue. In my home state of Colorado, local government entities have been hit hard by ransomware attacks, as have large organizations like the University of Colorado, which is in my district. One of my biggest concerns is the link between some of these attacks and hostile foreign entities. The University of Colorado, for instance, was affected by an attack on Escelion, a third-party vendor used by the university in 2021. The university refused to pay the ransom request, and over 300,000 records containing personal information was ultimately released on the dark web. And it turns out the hackers, at least as we understand it, were part of a ransomware consortium known as CL0P. They were arrested in Ukraine, as you know, and the Ukrainian authorities believe the group may have caused $500 million in financial damages around the world. I wonder if you might be able to share some additional information on this particular organization and what the potential links are between groups like this one and the Russian government.
Okay. So CLOP is a very well, in my world, CLOP is a very well-known ransomware variant. We've heard them referred to as ransomware gangs. I personally don't like that terminology because it infers that you have a dedicated group of people under the banner of one variant. We know that's not true. We know that many of these actors, many of who are in Russia or the surrounding region, are affiliated with multiple variants because when we look at it, really the ecosystem breaks down this way. You have key services, you have malware and delivery, you have infrastructure, you have communications, and you have financial, right? Those 5 key services are paramount to catalyze and bring home any cyber attack. So actors cross-cut those services. So there may be an actor who's great on the financial side. That individual may decide to service 4 or 5 or 6 or even more of the ransomware variants. The ransomware variants are simply a brand name. But to your core question, sir, CLOP is a very, very well-known ransomware variant that the entire interagency in the U.S. government has been aware of, as well as technology researchers and cyber threat intel companies know.
I do think the point you, thank you for your answer, and the point you make is a salient one with respect to the cross-currency of these variants, right, and the fact that they may be operating under multiple different banners. I guess I wonder, more of an open-ended question. I reviewed your written testimony and appreciated a lot of the exchanges that you've had today. This is clearly a pervasive issue across the country, certainly in Colorado, across our state. We have had attacks on Children's Hospital in Colorado, which was attacked in 2017, exposed the personal data of more than 3,000 patient families. The Fort Collins Loveland Water District, of course, the Colorado Department of Transportation, the University of Colorado, as I mentioned, entity after entity impacted by these cyber attacks. Congress has proposed a series of solutions. We have a bill that I introduced last year, the State and Local Government Cybersecurity Act, that would expand DHS responsibilities to provide education and assistance to state and local, tribal, and territorial governments along the lines of what you've described today, as well as the general public, right, on cyber threat indicators and on defensive measures that they can take, right, to better determine their own vulnerabilities and their incident response, which you referenced in response to a question from one of my colleagues. I don't know if you would care to opine on that particular bill. It's passed the United States Senate. We're trying to get it through the House. But also, on a more open-ended question, what other tools you might recommend the Congress legislate, new statutes that you might recommend that we consider?
Sir, I appreciate the question and the opportunity. Certainly on the proposed legislation that you mentioned, would be more than happy to have a look at it and offer you more refined thoughts. In terms of your question about what legislation would be helpful, first would be to give prosecutors stronger sticks to prosecute, using RICO charges for cyber criminals, enhanced punishments for damaging critical infrastructure. Second would be equipping courts and law enforcement with more tools to disrupt large-scale cybercrime. So criminalizing selling infrastructure access to botnets, injunctions to stop ongoing or imminent mass cybercrime, and last would be to improve DOJ's forfeiture authorities so that we increase our ability to authorities to seize cybercrime critical infrastructure, network infrastructure, that is. So those are just a few thoughts that I think are very relevant.
Thank you, Director, for your service, or for your hard work, to your team, for the work that you're doing each and every day to protect our country, our states, our local governments from these pernicious attacks. And we'll certainly take your recommendations under advisement. And